So
So
let's see. So now
that's all bowl TV.
we've covered our topography, we covered the World Series, and then one of the other questions we get
A lot.
a lot is our lightweight balls have a different shaped core
Hmm.
than our heavyweight balls,
Yeah.
and I get a lot of phone calls about that too. It's funny. I'll get people that saying, "Hey, I got an injury, or I'm getting old, and I want to drop down from 14 to 13 pounds." And I threw, I want to throw the outer limits, for instance. Um, but what core is in that? And I say, well, we use a generic core. It's a generic asymmetrical core,
Hmm.
so that we can give you some differential after drilling, and raise your intermediate diff a little bit. Well, why can't you do that with the regular shaped core? And you try to explain to them that the specific gravity of the material you use in a regular shaped core, you can't use that in a lightweight ball because it would weigh too much. Obviously, if you poured a ball with just urethane, it'd be 12.5 pounds, about. In other words, with no core.
Hmm.
So if you take out the middle to put a core in it, you have to really be close on a 12-pound ball. You can only put 6 pounds in the middle of the ball, about a little less, maybe, and the problem comes in with the size of the core. You could shrink the size down, but then you still wouldn't have the differential or the same performance. So what we try to do is give you a core that has a high enough differential and high enough intermediate diff, so that it's in a lighter weight ball. You still get performance, and the cover
Right.
stock is what it's all about when it comes to that.
Right. The cover
And I, and
stock
I
doesn't change one bit.
no, you same
Yeah.
cover stock.
The question I see a lot and going in like the bowling forums and such is, brand X uses the same core
Yeah,
from 12 pounds all the way to 16 pounds, it has the
right.
same shape. But just because a lightweight core has the same shape as its heavyweight predecessor
Yeah,
does not mean it's the same core. There's
it's not.
no possible way that can happen.
No, can't
And you
be.
can see that with the numbers. When you see a
Yeah,
gigantic drop off. Now, RGs are one thing. The RGs are going to change in a lightweight ball compared to a heavyweight ball because they have to. You're
right.
using less dense material to make the ball lighter.
Hmm.
So what happens is, you put that same shaped core into a ball with a lot less density. All of a sudden, the differentials drop down to hardly anything, nowhere close to the
Correct.
original. So is it
Correct.
really the same exact core?
Yeah, it's like making a balloon dog.
Right.
It's got the same shape as your dog, but
Yeah.
it doesn't weigh it the same, or is it the same? So it's putting we can use glass beads to fill that core in and make it the same shape and fit it into the ball. And when you drilled into it, it'd be like making no change at all in the differential or the shape of the core after drilling. There'd be no impact. So Nick did some research. He's got some pictures to show us about the
I have a picture. So
a
I want
picture.
to show the basically the I'll just put up on the screen here. So this is the ever famous Black Widow core, the gas mask core on the left, and the intermediate and the total differential numbers on the left. And on the right is our generic asymmetric core, which is a light bulb shape that has been elongated, elliptical, to give it the intermediate differential. So the main things you're looking at here are the differential numbers and the intermediate numbers. Now you're just not going to find a 12 or 13-pound ball that really has the differential of 058. It's going to be, in your experience, how hard is that to do?
That's impossible to do.
So,
It's
so
impossible. You can't get a 13-pound ball to have a diff like that. You can't get there. It's just won't happen.
right. So Brunswick engineers quite a long time ago developed lightweight cores that could potentially max out the total differential and the total intermediate for those weights, giving you, the bowler, the most possible performance there is. So on a symmetrical ball, say for instance, on like a GB4, the differential on that ball is 048. Obviously, there's no intermediate because it's symmetrical. The generic version of that core is right around 040. So within a close range of the original faction. So,
Yeah, and the other part you have to consider is a lightweight ball. People that throw lighter weight balls may have a little less rev rate or a little less ball speed. So, giving you an 043 differential ball, it should be fine, and you'll be able to accommodate the rev rate. It'll help your rev rate a little bit because you'll end up with a lower RG ball than you would have had before. You'll have a higher differential than you would have had before. So it would sort of somewhat mimic what you were going to get out of the regular shape and regular dense core. And that's the goal that we had when we started going with a. Oh, we got the truck backing up again. I love it.
Oh, it's bringing your truck with money from all the March Madness.
Yeah, there it is. So you have to understand that it's the end result. If the and your after drilling numbers are going to be different. You have an 043 core. If you had a lighter weight core and drilled into it, you would not change the after drilling numbers that much on a same shape lightweight core. You get whatever the numbers were. If it's 025 dip, that's what you'd end up with because you didn't take any mass out. With our ball, when you drill into that core, it's a denser core, so you're going to change the intermediate diff and the total diff.
Sure. And if they took that gas mask core shape with the top flip block and all that and put that same shape into a 12 and 13 pound, the differential would be very, very low because they'd have to make that core very, very light. So you're not getting the true performance out of that ball. You'd be basically having, a decaffeinated version of that.
Sure.
So
Well, think
rather
about
than
go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, rather than have less performance, we go to generic core.
And if you look at the size of that core, if you can put that core up again, if you can technologically go back.
I can do that.
Okay. You got to look at the size of that core, the mass, the area of that core.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You realize how light the material has to be to fill that core and keep the ball under 14 pounds.
Right.
So your densities are so spread out. The weight of that core is so spread out, dissipated over the size of the area. At least in the one to the right, you can put a denser material in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you drill it, your drilling is more of an impact, but it also leaves more of the mass in the core.
Right.
It's not spread out over a wider area.
So at what point, it is, when you have such a massive core and say brand X wants to keep that core shape intact and you have to use a material that's so light, say it's equivalent to even like the outer core material, as far as weight and density.
Right.
At what point does it's not actually a core anymore? It's just more or less filler.
That's all it is.
Right.
Right. So what we did was at Columbia years ago, we wanted to make our cores more dense and the outer core lighter. We used glass beads. 3M made a glass bead filler. We used that. It had air.
Okay.
Made it light. Now we could have made whatever shape core you wanted, as big as you wanted, with those beads in it in a 6-pound ball. But it would have had no impact. There was no weight to it, no mass. So that's why we don't do it that way. There's the right way to do it, and then there's the marketing way to do it. We don't use the marketing way.
Right. We want to give true performance.
We want to give you performance. We don't want you to buy a ball and say, "Man, my outer limits rolled terrible. It didn't do anything."
Yeah.
You drill an outer limits, you're getting HK22 cover on it, and you're getting that performance.
Sure. And Chuck Baker, his son bowls a 12-pound Black Widow and gets great motion for his rev rate and speed combo. Loves that ball.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we try to do the best we can. And then I get people that call me and tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. So, I always tell people.
That's me, by the way.
Yeah, that is you. I call when that happens. I tell them, well, you called me. I didn't call you and tell you this. You called me. I'm giving you my answer. I don't recall me dialing your number and asking you what you thought. So, if you want to disagree, that's the way it is. And sometimes people fall into the marketing gimmicks that are out there.
They absolutely do. And I see it and I shake my head. I don't say anything on the boards, but the bottom line is if the numbers are not the same, it's not the same core.
It's not the same core.